Welcome back to This Time's Tech, the show where we take a deep dive into the wonderful world of technology. My name is Ulises Mora, and on today's episode, we will quite literally step behind the scenes of film and videography. In order for us to bring you the amazing moving pictures you see in theaters and on TV, quite a lot goes into the process. If any of you at home are interested in entering the field, allow us to be the last little nudge through the door. And now, it's time for the tech. Well, let's just jump right into things. When you watch a movie with an action fight scene, you're naturally drawn in. The fast camera moves and the editing all grab your attention to see what's coming next. This is by design. Film and videography have some of the deepest and most complex parts of any art form. This complexity starts with the camera, which is perhaps the most important part. Each camera plays an important role in every shoot, and its camera user's job is to create crisp, awe-inspiring shots that push the motivation of the piece. Because without a picture, what do you have?
I try to convince somebody to get into videography if it's their passion. It's a tough job. And I don't mean from the technical aspect of it. I think it's a tough job competitive-wise. There's a lot of people out there shooting, especially these days.
As a freelancer, being able to pick your own days, pick your own rates, it's a lot of work on the front end, but it's really rewarding for someone who also enjoys their hobbies or their free time or managing their own time. I don't think there are any prerequisites to picking up a camera other than trying any new skill, the willingness to be wrong, the willingness to keep trying, and the willingness to not be defeated when it doesn't go your way.
In video, it's really about telling a story. It's about for lack of a better way of saying that, beginning, middle, and end to it, right? And a purpose. There's a purpose for it, and I think anybody can pick up a camera and anybody can shoot something, and everybody's doing it now. Right? I mean, there's so much now. There's such a flood of information out there, but I think the people that will last, or the people that are going to be successful at it, have kind of an innate sense of how to tell a story with pictures.
Like any artistry, there are no wrong answers. If your intent is to create A and you work and you create A, you've done it right.
There's theories on the way camera movement and camera angle and camera, what your focal length in has a tendency to bring emotion into people, where a tight close-up makes things very, very dramatic. A wide shot kind of gives people an idea of the surrounding and where people are and what they're doing. Low angles, make people stronger. High angles make people feel weaker in the camera. I think, the idea of learning those basics and then either bending or breaking those rules is what people will notice.
It's an understanding of the direct connection between being a visual being and an emotional being. Our primary sense is vision. Generally speaking, my favorite camera is the right one for the job. If I'm going to shoot a 1990s skate video, I'm not going to shoot it on a 200-pound, fully rigged out Panavision or IMAX large format film camera.
It's not about the equipment, it's about the eye of the person. And again, putting together a story, being able to tell a story with not only the script and what's going on, but being able to tell a story with angles and camera movements and things like that. I think it's more learn that. Don't worry as much about what gear you've got.
You don't need high-end anything to be good at what that tool is designed for. The best car builders in the 30s, 40s, and 50s didn't have 5-axis CNC machines and 3D printers. They did everything by hand. It's what you can do with it and learning to get the most out of the tools that you have. Sometimes those restrictions and learning to work within those restrictions technologically is what breeds great creativity. Knowing that your camera is not really good in this scenario or not really good in that scenario might lead you to those decisions of I can't light it this way or I have to steer away from that color, which might constrain you just enough to have to think outside of that specific box. And I think that applies to pretty much any technology.
Study the idea of what angles and what ways to shoot that is going to really bring out the emotion and strengthen the story.
The simplest reason why you'd pick any tool, specifically a drone, for shot is because that's the tool you need to get that shot.
One of the things I really like to use my drone for now is what I call low altitude shots, right? To go out and get a jib arm rigged up or to get a camera crane, which probably the majority of people aren't going to be able to afford, you can do these shots with a drone now. And I'm not talking about going 100 feet in the air. I'm talking about going 20 feet in the air and doing a nice drop down or a nice raise up or a trucking shot and moving across something. Don't try to catch up with technology or don't try to chase technology. Every year, well, it used to be every year, now it's like every 6 months, every 4 months, somebody comes out with a new camera, somebody comes out with a new gadget. It really is about telling the story, and you can do it with an iPhone or a phone on your camera, or you can go out and spend $50,000 on an Airy camera. But the truth of the matter is, it's not going to help your story.
It's not what you use, it's how you use it. You don't need the newest, biggest, best anything to make a good product. I think the example I give most people when I hear what camera should I buy is the one you can afford, the one that you like, the one that you're familiar with. Usability to me is more important than chasing new technology.
People get really caught up in technology. Who's got the best camera and what's got the best picture and this can do this and this has got better dynamic range, and they get all caught up in that, and then they go out and people don't pay attention to it because the story doesn't get them. So I think it's really about worry more about your skill of telling the story and learning about the basics of a camera and how it works and how it can work to tell the story than worrying about who's got the best camera.
Looked incredible in an awe-inspiring way. In all honesty, crystal clear. You don't need $1 million budget to make a great featured film. You just need creativity.
Grip gear is anything in support of, I would say, lighting and rigging.
Okay.
So,
yeah, the teleprompter just stopped at some
the
point.
stand
So
that it goes on is grip, or the scaffolding that you build it on to mount it on is grip, or the support structure for lighting and set is grip.
There's guys that are hired as grips on a shoot, and a lot of times somebody will do double duty. You can be a shooter and a grip, and you can be a electrician and a grip, and you can do. But usually those are the guys that are grabbing the lights and moving them around and doing things like that. So grip gear can be, You can talk about lights as a grip, but usually it's something to complement that. It's going to be, you can be a Dolly Grip, right? Which means if you got a dolly on it, that's the guy that's going to like set up the dolly and set up the track and move the dolly around, and he's the Dolly Grip. The standard grips that are working are usually moving lights off a truck or taking lights back to a truck and putting amplifiers on the lights, whether it's barn doors or any type of diffusion or color or anything on it, and moving light stands around and doing things like that.
Camera support to me is anything that the camera would mount to or directly control a function of the camera. So a tripod would be support gear, a follow focus would be support gear. One mounts on the camera, one the camera mounts on. A video shoot without grip gear could be either good or bad. The guerrilla style of filmmaking, where you use all available light or all natural light with no types of bounces or modifiers or stands or lights or electrics or rigging, would look just like any other set if you took it away. There's still, you know, a cast and a camera and a director running the show. And it could also look very bad if you're trying to do the same thing with the improper tools, and by bad I mean unsafe.
If you don't get a chance to go and do a location scout where you get on site and you look around and go, okay, I got a good spot here with light coming through the window, I've got, you know, and you kind of think of the time of day too, right? You gotta think of the time of day, because there might be bright light coming through that window if you're shooting at 10 in the morning, but at noon there might be just ambient light coming through that.
I am an over-preparer. Why take one camera that could break? Take 5, because then when all 4 break or get run over by a car, you've got options. I like being over-prepared. I feel like that is a huge part of the film and video profession, especially on large sets, commercial work, location work specifically.
Because you don't know a lot of times what you're walking into.
Make sure that you are always prepared for whatever inevitable small challenges come up, and even what unforeseeable challenges come up. Have your plan of adaptation if things don't look like they're going to go your way, and that can be as small as, I forgot batteries for those lights, to, oh my god, the talent didn't show up. Because those have all happened to me, and everything in between.
So without the preparation is kind of sometimes the rule. You know, your preparation would be to get some grip gear, at least the basic stuff, so that you can kind of solve the problems when you get there. Because a lot of times you get on site and you really do not, you don't know what you're in for until you get there.
I've used pretty close to every piece of equipment that's out there, other than a few of the big specialty kind of systems. Everything from, you know, the newest and biggest and best in camera support, whether it's steady cams, you know, the old vest and arm with the sled that the camera mounts to, just still I think one of the best ways to move the camera in a believable and quick fashion, to what we call a Russian arm, you know, a motorized arm that mounts on the top of a car. Your favorite car chases, I'll use those.
So camera support equipment that's out there now, like a dolly or a jib arm or a Ronin, those are things that you mount a camera on in order to keep a stable shot, right? So if we start with a jib, like a jib is usually, I used to have a 9-foot jib, so that meant from floor to ceiling I could get 9 feet. You can move it from ground up. You can move it parallel. You can move it at any height. I can go up to 6 feet, and then I can move it around and slide it left and right, or I can go up and down or whatever. So that's kind of what a jib will do for you.
The grip gear industry is always changing.
When I used to have my full-size Ronin, which had multiple engines on it, and you had to balance it and do all these things to it, then they came out with a single stick Ronin, which basically you put a camera on the end and you can just hold it and run with it, and it pretty much will hold that steadiness. And now we've got, you know, we have cameras that basically you can hold in your hand, these little Osmo cameras, and they can shoot 4K video, and they've got 3 little motors built into them, and you can walk with it, and you can truck with it, and you can go up and down, you can move in any direction, and that thing will keep the horizon and the camera stable.
Cameras used to weigh 200 pounds. Now we can put a 5-pound red body on a gimbal on a drone, land the drone, disconnect from the drone, and attach it to something else with quick releases. So those interesting ways of mounting cameras or mounting equipment to other items, I think is probably what's changing the most.
I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna wear glasses pretty soon that you can walk around with and take pictures and just follow somebody around, and it'll follow your eyesight. Who knows? I don't know where it's going, but it is constantly progressing.
If you want to start out using grip gear, you've probably been on a few sets, maybe as a PA, maybe in another department. When the time is right, not right between setups, or if you got some downtime, ask a grip, just how does that work? That's cool. What does that do? A lot of people that I've met in my journey love the education side of things. As long as you're not interfering with the work, they're more than happy to teach you.
I did this when I started my career a long time ago, is I offered to work for free. I said, if you let me on the set and let me help out, you don't have to pay me. I just want to be there. I want to see how things work. I want to meet people, make connections, and just by osmosis kind of suck in what's going on that set. And it's well worth its weight in gold to be on a set and to be able to see professionals working and see what someday you might want to do for a living and make some money doing it. So I highly suggest kind of volunteering and getting out there and getting your feet wet.
So many different people and parts come together to create something amazing, all from behind the camera. Who would have thought so much went into keeping the camera steady? Watching all of the crew members involved in the production reminds me of a giant machine, all working separately at once to achieve a goal. It's really beautiful, yet so subtle. Our eyes naturally adjust and change to fit the intensity, color, and subtlety of light. While cameras share similarities to our eyes, there is entire science behind how light works with cameras. As impressive as it is, getting clean shots, what good is it if the scene isn't all appealing to the eye? Turning a lamp on or open a window should be enough, right? Well, Frank and Tim are back again to give us a deeper look. Let's enlighten ourselves and get into the complex and gorgeous realm of lighting.
Well, lighting is videography, really. It is probably, besides the fact of capturing the image in the camera, really all you're capturing is reflected light, right? So it really is all about lighting. Lighting is a big thing.
When it comes to the visual image, as a package, it still has sound and art design and direction and writing, but ultimately it's a visual medium. You can only see anything in that visual medium with lighting. What types of light there are, or what type of light there is to be used for film and video, reminds me of something a recording engineer once told me. There's no such thing as a bad sound, only an appropriate sound. There are hundreds of thousands of ways to create light, to shape light, direct light, reflect light, cast light, capture light, color light. It doesn't matter how you do it. The result is what matters. And if your result is conveying an emotion, telling a story, there is no such thing as an appropriate light. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what's appropriate for the story you're trying to tell.
Lighting, you can take a dark room and light that. You don't need ambient light. But if there's ambient light and you use it, sometimes natural light, there's not a better gaffer than Mother Nature, that's for sure.
Besides the lights themselves, I think anything can be a tool to modify a light. The classics, the bounce and diffusion, where you'd use a technical fabric to, make a light big and broad, make its apparent size bigger, or bounce it from one direction to another. Then you kind of move out from there, and anything that can be used to diffuse light can can be used to diffuse light. It might add a incorrect color cast to one person's eye. It might add just the perfect tonality to another person's sensibility.
There's a lot of different grip gears and a lot of modifiers to lighting between, years back people used to use a lot of colored gels on lights, and that's when tungsten lights were out, because tungstens were always like 3200 degrees Kelvin, which is a color for a light, which is basically, the camera sees it as a yellow, right? Like a yellow, like a warmness. So if you were shooting outside and you were using a tungsten light, you'd have to throw a CTB on it, the color temperature blue, a CTB, which would make it match the color of outside. And sometimes you'd have to put an orange filter on it to warm it up or do something. So those kind of things, the gels and things, now are more for special effects.
When lighting a scene, every quality of light plays to the emotion of the scene, from the direction of light to the intensity of light, how soft or hard it is, very much what color it is. Color theory goes deep. What the best part about that is that there's no real science to it that says if you use a hard blue light from the left, your viewer will feel XYZ. And that's where the artistry really comes in, is those subtle changes in crafting, not just the blocking and the setting and the staging, but then specifically the lighting, create very small changes, and a lot of times they're just kind of gut instinct decisions as to what's too much or what's not enough, or what needs to be a little more or a little less, or come around or go back or turn on or turn off.
Color temperature is basically measured in Kelvin, and the lowest, or the lower the Kelvin temperature, like a 3200 Kelvin, is going to be a yellowish orange light, and that's what the camera will see it, right? If you put the camera at a standard setting, it will see it as an orange or yellow light. And the higher you go up to like 5500, 5600, 6000, that's a blue light, right? Your eyes automatically adjust. And you can see color, you can see a beautiful sunset and things like that. But natural light in the real world does have a color to it. It's just, it's got those colors in it, but your eyes kind of adjust to it.
You have to tell the camera how high or low you want white to be. We reference that in color temperature. The sun burns at a specific Kelvin. Tungsten halogen lights burn at a specific Kelvin. They physically do burn. That's part of the reason we call it, burning lights. You have to set all of your references around a specific point so that white appears white. That's really all color temperature is. But you can manipulate that if you want white to appear a little cooler or a little warmer. And now you're into the creative process of, you can always make white look white. What other temperature, what other color or tone might you want it to look? What do you want? The most important thing with lighting is remembering that there's no right or wrong. There's only appropriate. And appropriate only means, are you achieving your desired effect? If you want something to be very high key, low contrast, or low key, super contrasty, if you want to see the background, if you don't want to see the background, those are all creative decisions, and there's no right or wrong. And if you make a decision that then you look back on and go, I didn't like that, I should have done that different. You can't ever berate yourself for a creative decision, because creativity is unending.
Seeing the versatility and subtlety that comes with lighting, it really adds a layer of secrecy to each and every scene in our favorite shows and movies. Though the same can be said with everything in film and videography. Videographers and cinematographers and everything in between bring all these different aspects together at once for each of their jobs. What we've seen today shines a pretty spotlight on the important things that make our favorite media exist. Whether it's a small or large, every moving piece comes together in its own way. We dug deep into how and why cameras don't dictate the creativity behind them, all the small moving parts that come with creating even the simplest of scenes, and how lighting is the most important part of the creative process behind every scene. Our goal tonight was to show that anyone can create amazing work regardless of the limits. The only limit is your own aspiration and creativity. Thank you so much for tuning in into This Times Tech. I hope you learned a thing or two today. Have a great day, everybody, and see you later.